From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson. Usually you see me here with my friend Hector Bosa. Hector is actually about to head home from school right now, but he is going to try and phone it in within the next 10 minutes. So in the meantime, I'm going to let you know that you can check us out through YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. Those are where you could see a long list of past episodes of ours. You can also contact us through Instagram and Snapchat. And if there is a story that you would like for us to tell, then we want to know about it. So contact us through each of those avenues. We have a Facebook page for the show, so you can probably contact us through the show page, and we would love to tell that story on the air. So while Hector is trying to find a phone somewhere, I'm going to let you know about what's been going on recently in the world of sports. Of course, in our neck of the woods, the Jets are starting to round back into form once again. They now have a 3-game losing streak, and suddenly there are calls for Sam Darnold to get benched. There is nothing to be accomplished from benching the fifth, or is it the fourth? The fourth overall pick of the 2014 draft. Sorry, but it's just not going to happen. The last thing the Jets need is for Josh McCown to be taking the snaps from center. And for what? Just so he could do a repeat of last year? Sorry, I could care less what his numbers were last year. He did nothing but turn the ball over, fail to convert in the red zone, and lead the Jets to all of 5 victories. And right now, the way the Jets are going, that seems to be the exact same amount of victories that they're going to get this year. And this also begs the question, what's going to be of Todd Bowles? Is he going to get fired? Or is he the man that the Jets believe is going to lead them to the next level? At this rate, he's had 3.5 years, and he's practically not even done so much as shown a pulse, both on the sidelines and in the locker room. And his press conferences have been so uneventful and so painfully boring that it's just, I don't even know what's worse. A Todd Bowles press conference or a Bill Belichick press conference. At least Bill Belichick will show a slightest hint of a pulse. I mean, he does have a pretty decent sense of humor. But Todd Bowles, forget about it. I mean, he'll give answers, but it's just the same old vanilla answers that he gives every single time. Now, as far as yesterday's game, this was the game that the Jets really let get away from them, aside from the Cleveland game. The Cleveland game and yesterday's Dolphin rematch were the 2 games that the Jets really let get away from them this season. Because when you think about it, the Dolphins had Brock Osweiler taking the snaps from center at quarterback, a guy who's done nothing in 6.5 seasons in the NFL. He only threw for barely 150 yards yesterday, and somehow the Dolphins were able to come away with the victory. Why? Because Sam Darnold turned the ball over 4 times. I mean, don't get me wrong. Darnold has shown some real flashes of brilliance in the past, but he has got to learn how to look at the field better and take care of the football, because every single turnover that he commits puts his team further behind the 8 ball. Not only that, but the offensive line specifically the center spot, did nothing to try and protect him yesterday. I mean, it was like the Jets were doing their impersonation of the Giants' offensive line. And that's a story for another day. Now the Jets can only prepare for the Buffalo game. Yesterday was actually the first of 3 consecutive division games that the Jets have. They're hosting Buffalo next week, and then they have the Patriots. And I shudder to think what can happen with the Jets after yesterday's complete and unmitigated 6-point disaster. Now, as far as elsewhere around the NFL, the game of the day turned out to be the one that took place in the evening, and mostly because the Rams were able to overcome a double-digit deficit to tie the Saints before the Saints were able to pull away down the stretch of the fourth quarter. And even though the Rams lost yesterday, they still showed glimpses of being a potential Super Bowl contender. And right now, at this rate, it looks like it's going to be the Rams and the Saints for the NFC Championship and the right to go to the Super Bowl. As for the other big game that took place yesterday, Patriots and Packers, let's face facts. Tom Brady is still awesome. And yesterday, the Patriots' defense, which has been inexplicably very maligned for the better part of 10 years now, once again came up with a big performance as they were able to shut down Aaron Rodgers. And leave it to Aaron Rodgers to admit who the better player is among the two. It is Tom Brady. It's going to be Tom Brady as long as he feels like he wants to play the game. It has been and always will be Tom Brady. And just yesterday, Brady showed exactly why he is a class above everybody else in this game. And it was good to see their new acquisition, Josh Gordon, who they got from the Browns, make himself useful yesterday as he wound up catching what proved to be the clinching touchdown late in the game. As far as the other games that took place in the NFL, well, it looks like Chicago is starting to really make a statement in who is the class of the NFC North Division. Right now, Green Bay is basically just hanging by a thread. As for Minnesota at least is showing that there's still a team to be reckoned with in that division. But right now, Chicago showed that they could be the best team in the NFC North right now after they kicked the Bills' teeth in yesterday. And that Bills versus Jets game is looking a hell of a lot more intriguing right now, doesn't it? As far as the other games that took place in the NFL, it was good to see the Chargers come up with a big win on the road. And it seems like the road is going to be their best friend for the rest of the year because they cannot get anybody to show up at the Home Depot Center for any of their home games. So it could be that the road could be the best thing to happen for the Chargers if they clinch a playoff spot this year. And right now, it's the Chargers and the Chiefs that are going for supremacy in that AFC West division. And once again, the Chiefs wound up winning a big game. And this so-called showdown between Patrick Mahomes and the quarterback for the Browns was pretty much a one-sided affair because once again, Patrick Mahomes showed that he is a shining star in this league and a guy who could potentially win multiple Super Bowl titles. Baker Mayfield, the numbers were there, but they were pretty much catch-up type numbers. So once again, it's the Patriots and the Chiefs, and maybe to a lesser extent, the Chargers, who have shown that they are the teams to beat in that AFC. Now, as far as what happened in the college game, what was supposed to be the best game of the weekend was a complete and utter dud. Alabama went into Death Valley and just made a mockery out of LSU. And once again, Tua Tagovailoa, who is now plus 1,000 in odds to win the Heisman Trophy Award, again showed he might be the best player in college football. He did things that most quarterbacks could not get away with, yet he wound up making look flawless. He actually threw from his back foot and wound up completing a pass, and the arm strength that he has is a lot better than people give him credit for. Of course, the best thing that he's got going for him is the fact that he's just a sophomore, so there's no talk of him coming out for the NFL draft in April. But you give him maybe one more year, and I think this kid can really shine in the NFL. The only downside was that he committed his first turnover of the season, which is an interception early in the game. But other than that, it was all Alabama all the time in yesterday's game. Now, the other big game that was Georgia-Kentucky. And right now, it's looking more and more like Georgia's going to play Alabama for the Southeastern Conference Championship. Georgia's already won the Southeastern Conference's Eastern Division. If Alabama wins their last 3 games, they coast to a Western Division title. Speaking of whom, every single win that Alabama has had this year has been by double digits. It just goes to show you that they have so much polish and so much preparation and so much quickness on each side of the ball. I honestly can say that there is no team that can beat them this year. Not Georgia, not Clemson. I don't even think that Notre Dame, which is also had an outstanding season, has a chance to beat the Crimson Tide this year. So it's looking more and more and more, unless something really, really strange happens in either of these last 3 games, Alabama is going to be the team that's going to win the national championship, not just the Southeastern Conference Championship. And it just goes to show you how brilliant of a coach Nick Saban is. He's also, not only is he one of the best coaches in the country, if not the best coach in the country, he's also one of the best recruiters because he's always getting these blue chip prospects from all over the South to make their way into Tuscaloosa to compete for a title. He's always got diamonds in the rough on every position defensively, and that's how he's been winning championships. He's been winning championships with his defense. And if you disagree, look at what they did to LSU over the weekend. The final score was 29-0. So that should really squash any debate over who the cream of the crop in college football is. As far as what's going on in the NHL, at least the Rangers were able to win a big game over the weekend when they won at home against Buffalo. And they also completed a rather grueling road trip with a big win in overtime thanks to a shootout against Anaheim. They were able to not just overcome their losses to the Blackhawks and the Kings, but they were also able to beat the Sharks and also beat the Anaheim Ducks to get those to basically end their Western road trip on a right note. So last night they were back home. They had Buffalo, one of their in-state rivals, and they were able to get themselves a really big win at the Garden yesterday. As far as the Islanders are concerned, at least the Islanders are playing some decent hockey right now. I mean, 7-4-1 is nothing to really crow about, but it doesn't look like they're really hurt by John Tavares' departure to Toronto. But the reason why the Islanders have been able to get such big wins this year is because, for one, Thomas Greiss has been really shining in goal, and it looks like he's gotten that number 1 goalie spot for the time being. 2, Matthew Barzal and so many other young players that the Islanders have, like Cal Clutterbuck and Franz Nielsen and so many others, have been able to really lead the way for the Isles this season. As for the Devils, before the Florida game this past Saturday, they were really starting to sputter a little bit. But now it looks like things are starting to improve for them at the very least. And as far as baseball is concerned, just recently, the Mets made a bit of news when they hired their new general manager, the one-time agent, Brody Van Wagenen. A really interesting hire, considering that he has spent his entire life as a sports agent, who also happens to represent Jacob deGrom and Todd Frazier. But now that he has this new job, I'm really interested to see what kind of philosophy he's going to bring to the table as far as how to look for players. Is he going to spend money, or is he going to be hamstrung by the Wilpons, who've been notorious for pinching pennies, especially after the Bernie Madoff scandal? Now, what is Brody Van Wagenen going to do to try and build a contender? He says he wants to win, but how is he going to do that? Is he going to build through the draft? Is he going to build through free agency? Is he going to build through trades? Or is it a combination of all of the above? Knowing how the Wilpons like to pinch pennies the way they do, I would think that the Mets would want to explore all of their options in the draft. And speaking of which, one of the guys that they wound up picking through the draft, Peter Alonso, is having quite the season in the Arizona Fall League. In fact, they had the Arizona Fall League All-Star game recently, and Alonso wound up smashing a 101-mile-an-hour fastball for a home run. I know it's just the Arizona Fall League, but if this doesn't show that he needs to contend for that starting first base job with the Mets next season, then I don't know what will. And what's going to be of the rest of their infield? Is Jeff McNeil going to be the second baseman once again, like he was for the last 30 or 40 games of last season? And what about third base? Is Todd Frazier going to be the guy? Or will the Mets make a really big splash to get themselves another third baseman? Now, if the Mets really, really wanted to make a big splash, they go after Manny Machado and or Bryce Harper. Now, I know that Manny Machado has really conducted himself to be a complete brat, admitting that he doesn't hustle and showing that he has not been busting it on the field, especially during that World Series that the Dodgers played in against the Red Sox. But a once-in-a-lifetime talent like Manny Machado, it's hard to try and pass on that, especially considering the type of player that he is. I mean, he's a consistent power hitter and run producer, so much so that don't be surprised if you see somebody really break the bank for him, even though it's not really necessary. As far as Bryce Harper is concerned, Harper had a really disappointing 2018. So is this going to preclude him from getting that big contract, or are teams who are really interested in him going to just overlook the poor numbers that he had this past season and try to offer him that max deal? As far as what else is going on in baseball, just about an hour ago, they named the Rookies of the Year nominees, that is. They named the nominees for Rookies of the Year, Cy Young Award winner, Manager of the Year, and the league's most valuable player. Of course, in the American League, the nominees are two Yankees, Miguel Andujar and also Gleyber Torres. And the other nominee is Shohei Ohtani from the Angels, who, if he were not hurt and were able to pitch and hit a whole season, I think he would have been the runaway winner for the American League Rookie of the Year award. But after being thrust into the spotlight at the very beginning of the season and being really unflappable, in addition to being an awesome plate presence, Miguel Andujar is going to be the Rookie of the Year in the American League. As far as the National League, we do know that one of the nominees is Ronald Acuna from the Braves, and the other, Walker Buehler. No relation to Ferris Bueller, of course, who's the star pitcher for the Dodgers. My guess is that Ronald Acuna is going to be the National League's Rookie of the Year, if you will. As far as Managers of the Year, I think it's not even a question of who should be the guy in the American League. It should be Alex Cora. What he did this past season, not just with the team that he had, but also the fact that he was missing his best player, Dustin Pedroia, for the majority of the season, and the fact that he was able to inherit J.D. Martinez, who was the Red Sox biggest free agent signing, just goes to show you how brilliant he is as a bench boss. So I think that Alex Cora should be the Manager of the Year in the American League. As far as who should get the call in the National League, maybe Gabe Kapler of the Phillies, maybe Craig Counsell, who managed the Brewers to a Central Division title. Well, we're just going to have to wait and see. Or maybe it'll be the guy that managed the Braves as well. We're just going to have to wait and see exactly what happens there. Most valuable player? No question it has to be Mookie Betts of the Red Sox for the American League. Hands down this season. Of course, Mike Trout is going to be in the conversation because he's one of the best players in baseball right now. But when you talk about the kind of guy who has an impact on his team, the kind of guy who, if he's not there every single game, their team doesn't win, Mookie Betts is that guy. There was not one single time that I could remember that he failed at the plate in any game this season. He had every single big hit that you could think of, both in the regular season and in the playoffs. That's why I say Mookie Betts is the American League's most valuable player. As far as who should be the most valuable player in the National League, that's anybody's guess, to be honest with you. Maybe one of the guys on the Brewers, specifically Christian Yelich from the Brewers, I find it coincidental that now that he found a new team that he could be a contender on, he wound up being an impact player. Not that he wasn't on the Marlins, because he had 6 good seasons with the Marlins, but he was the guy for the Brewers this year. So I think you can draw your own conclusions on that, but in my eyes, Christian Yelich of the Brewers is the National League's most valuable player. As far as the Cy Young Award winner, it's great to see Jacob deGrom's name being mentioned at least in the conversation. There's also Max Scherzer of the Nationals, so draw your own conclusions. American League, maybe Corey Kluber, who knows? And I just got the signal from Kenny that I think Hector might have made his way onto the air. Nope, unfortunately not. All right, apparently we've got a little bit of a technical difficulty, so we're going to see if we can try and bring Hector back. But as far as American League's Cy Young Award winner, maybe Corey Kluber of the Indians, maybe David Price of the Nationals, who knows? And I just heard the ringing of the bell once again. I think that is Hector who's going to try and call in. Is that it?
Hello?
Kenny? Yes, that is it. Go on ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, hey. Sorry for everything. You know, these wild women were like, I'm still playing Halloween. But wanted to ask you, what have you been talking about so far?
I've practically been summing up everything within the span of barely half an hour. I've talked football, baseball, basketball, and hockey.
Well, here's the thing. Are there any interesting trades that are happening right now that you can say that can help, let's say, because I know the Devils are in some type of deal.
As far as hockey's concerned, nothing of major significance yet. I mean, they've got plenty of time to try and cut a deal, but as of right now, no, nothing going on.
And nothing else going on with the Rangers, the Islanders, or anybody else that you would consider?
Nothing. I know the Islanders are playing well, and the Rangers are practically hanging on by a thread. The Devils are slumping a little bit, but no major deals yet.
But you got now again. We've talked about them being on a rebuilding stage.
Mm-hmm.
The Rangers are in the rebuilding stage, so we're not expecting much from the Rangers, are we?
Almost nothing. I mean, they were able to do reasonably well on a road trip that they had. Lost to Chicago, lost to L.A., but then they bounced back to beat Anaheim and San Jose. So, at least they were able to break even on their road trip. And then just last night, they returned home for the Buffalo game, and they were able to get a big win.
But also, which is almost kind of interesting, is the Yankees they're being talked about for a lot of trades.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because they decided to bring back Brett Gardner. They declined his option, but they decided to bring him back on a cheap deal.
Now, which one do you think will fit the Yankees in the trades? What big name do you think they're going to get?
In a potential trade?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. On free agency. Which free agent will come to the New York Yankees? Because there's a lot of them that are coming around. There's a lot of them that's saying that they want to come to the Yankees. And
I'm hearing more Manny Machado and less Bryce Harper. And it's really interesting that you mention free agency and the Yankees, because for the last few years, the Yankees have decided not to spend a lot of money on free agents. Instead, going for some significantly cheaper alternatives, and it's not gotten them very far.
Well, I heard that from what I've been reading as of late, they're willing to open up the bank this year because there's a lot of good free agents out there. As we listed before, perhaps people that the Yankees could target, those pitches that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see any of those pitches coming to the Yankees?
Well, you mentioned Patrick. I mentioned Patrick Corbin of the Diamondbacks, but I'm not really sure if he's somebody that could really make an impact for them because he's barely a 500 pitcher for his career. He's had one good season.
Okay, but do you foresee anybody else that would come and go, "Hey, look, this is going to work"? How do you see it? Do you see them getting one or two of the free agents, or do you see them getting one, or do you see them getting nobody?
At this rate, it looks like they're going to have to make a big trade in order to get themselves a frontline starter, because after Luis Severino and Masahiro Tanaka and possibly Jay Happ, who's a free agent himself, I'm not sure if they're going to want to bring back CC Sabathia, especially after he stunk it up in the playoffs last year. There's also the matter of Jordan Montgomery, who missed most of the season because of Tommy John surgery. I would think that they would have to make a big deal in order to in order to contend next year. I hear Blake Snell, maybe Blake Snell of the Rays, might be available in the event they decide not to bring him back.
Well, I think they would bring back CC Sabathia if they can get him on the cheap end, because he could be your fourth or fifth starter, which is what they really need too.
Yes, but can he survive a postseason though? He already proved that he cannot.
Well, no. He's proved 2 years ago that he could, and this year that he couldn't.
That was 2 years ago, though. He's getting up there in age.
Exactly. So just because he didn't survive this year, what makes you think that next year's going to... I mean, give it a try. You've got nothing to lose. You're giving him a small contract. If he's willing to do it, you give him a small contract. He's your fifth starting pitcher or your fourth starting pitcher, which is what you really need. And then, because you're not giving your young guys a chance to come up to do what they have to do to try to make the team, because they got some really good, nice young arms down there that for some reason they don't want to do it. Now, why do you think they just don't want to just what is about him that you think they don't want to let him do it? Or do you think they'll let him do it next year?
You mean CeCe?
No, I'm talking about the young arms that they have in their minor league system that they should have brought up this year just to see if they would work out. Because there was one or two that they could have brought, but they didn't.
Well, the Yankees have had a long history of not showing much respect to any of the young pitching prospects that they've had in the past. Unless their name is Andy Pettitte, I don't see them. They just did not see them as elite enough. But let me tell you, Justice Sheffield is the kind of kid that they should roll with down the road, because he looks like the kind of kid that has the makeup of somebody who could overcome a really rough start.
Okay. So you don't see them getting one of those top-line pitchers, those free agents. Do you see them getting a free agent, a top-line free agent pitcher, or do you see them trying to go for their minor league system?
If they really wanted to make a run for a title next year, why not make a big splash and try to sign a big-time free agent? Because right now, I mean, Chris Carpenter maybe trying to do a deal for Chris Carpenter from the Cardinals. Or maybe try and do a deal for someone like, and I'm really
stretching it.
I'm really stretching it here. Jhoulys Chacin, who could probably be a fifth starter. Or maybe, or you know what? Maybe Madison Bumgarner. I mean, granted, he's damaged goods, but I still think Bumgarner has been so clutch, especially in the postseason. He is the kind of guy who can lead somebody to that next level, because he's already done it twice with the Giants.
But that's for your fourth and fifth starter. I'm talking about first, the second, or third starter.
Well, they already have Luis Severino as as a number one starter, so that's,
and Tanaka too.
And Tanaka is their number two guy. If they want to re-sign J-Hap, my guess is they're going to make him a number three starter. But someone would really have to wow him with a real sweetheart deal in order to convince him to leave the Yankees.
Business-wise, do you think they would have a good shot of winning next year?
Oh, definitely. They already showed it quite a bit this year. But
considering if they get Manny Machado, which is what their big thing is, they're more into the hitting than anything.
Yeah, when they should be focusing on pitching.
You got to focus on both. Like I said, we read the 54 people that may be on the Yankees next year that they were gunning for.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of them were pitchers.
Right.
And it just seemed as if I'm hoping for the best that they could actually land one of those top-line pitchers so that, and then perhaps get a J-Hap for the fourth or fifth starter.
Yeah.
Because there's some people that actually want to win a title first before they move on and get a big payday.
It's funny that you mention this, Hector, because you look at each of the last two World Series champions. What has been the common denominator for the Astros first and now the Red Sox? It's been a real stud starting pitcher or two. Last year, the Astros made the trade to get Justin Verlander. This year, the Red Sox had Chris Sale and David Price. David Price has had his problems in the past, but this year was probably the first time that he actually shined like the number one starter that he was in the past with Tampa. Chris Sale is just a beast.
Right.
The Red Sox and the Astros had the guts to spend a lot of money and prospects to get those guys. What have the Yankees done?
But those teams are actually balanced when it comes to minor league system and spending money also. Again, they had the hitting as well before they brought. I don't know what they had first, but I don't know if they had pitching first or the hitting first, but I know they had one of them first before they had the other part come in second. But
well, what did the Red Sox have? They had
too.
J.D. Martinez, they had Mookie Betts, they had Jackie Bradley Jr., they had Rafael Devers, they had Brock Holt. Then they made a side trade getting Steve Pearce, and he wound up being the most valuable player of, I think, the League Championship Series or the World Series. So that's 5 or 6 different hitters that they had that could catapult them over the top. And what was in their starting rotation? David Price, Chris Sale, Rick Porcello, too. So now it's gotten to the point where the Yankees really have got to start spending a little bit more money in order to try and get to that next level.
Right. So, and also, so that's what I'm saying. The chances of them getting, if they open up their wallets like they said they're going to do, to get at least a first-line pitcher.
If I'm the Yankees, I would try and make a play for Madison Bumgarner. Even though he's coming off a major surgery, I still think he's got something left in the tank that would allow for him to lead them to that next level.
All I would be saying is if you brought Steve Harvey.
You mean Matt Harvey?
Matt Harvey.
Steve Harvey's is the TV host, man.
Well, Harvey's a Harvey. They're both jokers.
No, Steve Harvey is the joker because he's actually funny. Matt Harvey is the fallen knight.
Yes, he's been a fallen knight of some sort, but so.
And I'll tell you right now, he is not gonna get the contract that he was hoping for, especially after the last 2 seasons that he's had.
Well, here's another thing that. So the Yankees are pretty much set, even if they don't do anything next year. But they do have to get Manny Machado, or could they rely on their minor league system?
Well, they have a potential rookie of the year in Miguel Andujar to man third base. Gleyber Torres could possibly take up most of shortstop for all of next season. And as far as who would take second base, do they re-sign Neil Walker or do they go someplace else? Maybe they'll keep Gleyber Torres at second and have Manny Machado be the shortstop. But this begs the question, what's going to happen with Didi Gregorius? Because he's going to be rehabbing an elbow that required Tommy John surgery. So as soon as he returns, he's going to be looking for a job someplace. And Didi Gregorius has played fantastic baseball for the Yankees for 4 years now.
Well, here's the thing that you have to remember as well, and that is, if they get, let's say, Manny Machado, he could wait a year. He could actually take the time, rehab well enough that they don't need him, because the Yankees already are stacked, as you would say. The Yankees, unless there's a foreseeable injury, a couple of injuries here and there, the Yankees are somewhat stacked if they get Machado and if they get their pitcher that they need. Now, if they don't get Machado and they rely on the other guy that you just mentioned, they still need a backup. And they're going to have to do a lot of finagling, and they also got to figure, if this guy gets hurt, what do we do? So that's the most important thing. Do they still have the third or fourth best minor league system still?
It's gone down a little bit in quality, Hector. It's now down to I would say about 15th or 16th or 17th best in the game.
That's because all of them are making the major leagues. That's what.
Yeah. Right now, the team that's got the best minor league system is the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, because I see them, Atlanta Braves, and the Twins always had a very good minor league system.
Yeah.
They always had a very good minor league system, and they're always there.
And it was the minor league system that won the Braves a division title this year.
Yeah.
Because they got Ronald Acuna.
Exactly. So, yeah, there is something to say. So let's see how Brian Cashman finagles everything. As on the Mets side of the system, Jacob deGrom may be for Cy Young Award.
If he does, it's going to be for one reason. It's because regardless of record, which should have been better, he should have won 20 games this year. He was the best pitcher in baseball because he's the guy with the under 2 ERA to prove it.
Yeah, if the team's not hitting for him, what do you expect, you know? And that's one thing that do you give a guy an award for being, let's say, in last place, even though he was the best player in being in the last place? That's always been the argument.
A-Rod did it. He won it with a last-place team in the Rangers all those years ago.
Exactly, but it's very rare because that's always been the argument. How do you give a person that was on a last-place team an MVP?
Precisely.
That's always, and if he's the best player on that team, and they follow the same criteria, it shouldn't matter if you're in first place or last place. Is what you're doing for that team. That's what counts. But on all those other notes, what do you think? You think DeGrom has a chance?
He's got a really strong chance. They've already announced the nominees for National League Cy Young winner. Max Scherzer, Max Scherzer of the Nationals is one. DeGrom is the other. Unfortunately, I forgot who the third nominee is. They only have 3 nominees for Cy Young awards in each league.
Right. Who was the last one that won a Cy Young award and an MVP?
The last to be the Cy Young Award winner and the MVP?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I don't know the answer. I just thought you knew.
I'm gonna see if I can. I'm gonna think about this for a bit, see if I could come up with an answer here.
Because I think it was probably in the 80s or 90s, the last guy, because I think they separated the MVP for hitting and for the Cy Young for pitching.
Nope.
I think that's what they did. I don't know if that's still allowed.
My guess, I think at one time, Willie Hernandez of the Tigers was a Cy Young winner and an MVP, but that was in 1984 when the Tigers won the World Series.
Exactly. So I'm wondering if that rule has changed where the MVP has to be a hitter. It can't be a pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Because the pitcher already has their own. And how do you compare between hitting and pitching?
Well, it's simple. One guy throws the ball and the other guy uses a bat to hit it.
Yeah, exactly. But the pitcher doesn't play every day, whereas the hitter does.
Mm-hmm.
And the pitcher goes every fifth before start. So how do you compare their excellence of what they've done with the team?
I look at what Mookie Betts did with the Red Sox this year, and that's one example for me. If he's not on the Red Sox don't win. He was a clutch hitter every single time out there.
Right. No, you're right about that, because, hell, he stole 2 bases. So on November 1st, he could have had 3 tacos.
Yeah.
But, as for the New Jersey Nets,
you mean the Brooklyn Nets?
The I'm still calling the Washington Bullets. Okay, but the Brooklyn Nets. Some of them guys are actually playing very well.
They blew out the Sixers yesterday.
Wow!
Blew them out by 25 points.
Team? Did they have a bad day, the Sixers, or they just got outplayed?
I think I think the Sixers just had a lousy game last night. Not only that, but Karis LeVert, who's probably the single most underrated player on that roster, had an outstanding game.
Wow. And what's their record off the top of your head? Do you know?
It's 4-6 now.
4-6. Is that in second to last place, or in last place, or they're in third place?
They're next to last in the Atlantic Division, behind the Celtics, Sixers, and Raptors. Oh, actually, it's the Raptors first, then the Celtics, then the Sixers.
Then the Sixers, and who's in fourth?
Then Brooklyn's in fourth. And then the Knicks bring up the rear. Speaking of the Raptors, they went into Los Angeles and spanked the Lakers last night. And there is already trouble on the Lakers, not even 10 games into the season, because their head coach, Luke Walton, was basically summoned to the principal's office and scolded for the Lakers' slow start. By who? Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson chewed his head off because of the Lakers' slow start this season. So dare I say that maybe Luke Walton might be on his way out of Los Angeles if things don't turn around? I mean, they've got the best player in the game on their roster, and yet they're still under 500.
But remember something, and again, that's a tough division. B, last year, before they got LeBron, they were willing to give Luke Walton a shot. They were a rebuilding team, and they were going to start young and so on. But here comes, as we talked about before, here comes King James, comes in and says, I want to win now. You're never going to get young if you want to go and win now. Now, Luke Walton is in his second year of his contract. And when they first got him, they had raised reviews with him with the team that he had at the time. Now, all of a sudden, LeBron comes in, Rajon Rondo comes in, all the veterans come in. They have a lousy, not so good time, and now it's the coach's fault. And it seems as if LeBron has that pattern. He becomes the coach. Then let him be a player coach. If he's so damn smart, let him be the player coach.
I think he already is the player coach.
No, let him be the actual player. I forgot who was the last person that actually got on the court and actually played one game, and he was a player coach. I forgot the last coach that did that. He actually went in for one game because he said, "Oh, I still have my shot." He was doing a shoot around, and I think he was shorthanded or something. He goes, "Oh, well, I'll play." And he only played one game, and that was it. I forgot the guy's name. But, if he wants to coach so bad, then give him the coaching job. Let him have two jobs. Because everywhere he's one of the best players in our lifetime, in this era.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's going to cause that much trouble, then is he worth it? Because again,
in my eyes, he's definitely worth it because the Lakers are trying to go back to their glory years, and what better way of doing that than signing the best player in the game?
Yeah, but look how much trouble he's bringing as the best player in the game. You got someone that they said that they had hope and dreams that Luke Walton was, he's a great young coach and he's going to do great for us and that he's going to do great with the young players and all that. All of a sudden, they bring in a couple of veterans and all of a sudden they don't want to listen to him and they have a bad start and it's his fault. You've got to be kidding me. And that's a division that has a lot of powerful teams. It's not that that's the weak division. It's not as if they were in the Eastern Division. That's the powerful Western Division where almost every team is a contender.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that you're having. So how do you blame everything on poor Luke Walton? No, that's ridiculous, I think.
Well,
but
you also have to realize who's running the show there. It's Magic Johnson, a guy who has built his entire lifetime on wanting to win now. And now that he's basically the boss of his of the team that he played for about 12 and a half years, he's still thinking like a player instead of being an executive. So naturally, he's going to want to see the team do better. I just wish that he would go about it in a different way as opposed to chewing off Luke Walton's head.
Well, look what happened when he was a coach. When he was a coach.
Oh, that was a disaster.
Okay, then. So, he should be a little bit more understanding.
He should be, but he's not.
Because
I thought things would be different with him, but nope. He's the same competitive being that he was when he was a player. Larry Bird is the same way, and he's still running the Pacers.
Well, I thought he was going to step down. I thought he was going to step down and let someone else take the realms, and then he's going to be the special advisor.
Well, we're just going to have to wait and see on that.
Because, again, just because you're competitive and so on, if you don't see the forest from the trees, you're going to make the same mistakes that you made when you was a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, if they don't do it with him in, let's say, 2 years, Johnson's out of there. If they don't sign a big name next year, he's gone.
Yep.
Because LeBron should bring you that star power that people want to play for L.A. And that's what they're hoping for.
Well, unfortunately, he was not able to get an elite superstar in Cleveland. I mean, he had Dwayne Wade, but Dwayne Wade is in the twilight of his career now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But now that he's in Los Angeles, the summer of 2019 is going to be critical for that franchise and every other franchise that wants to try and win immediately.
Well, look how many players are linked to go to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Kawhi Leonard is one. I even heard Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant.
Well, again, I've been hearing Kevin Durant going to the New York Knicks.
He's not going to the Knicks.
Kevin Durant's name has been thrown around as if it's a piece of work, because Irving wanted to be a Knick. All of a sudden, he wants to stay with the Boston Celtics, which I wouldn't. That's a damn good team. The Celtics are strong from beginning to end.
Make up your mind, please.
You know, you can't make up your mind now because you're playing the mind games. You're trying to get as much money as you can. You're trying to get everything. It's a business, like everything else. Everything else is a business. Now, you've got other Jimmy Butler going to the New York Knicks. Whether he does or doesn't, that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point is that he is stating that he wanted. That was another guy that wanted to go and play for the New York Knicks.
All right,
okay?
I'm going to say this as clear as possible.
So you've got
Jimmy Butler,
players.
Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving are not going to the Knicks at all, ever. End of discussion. They want to win. They want nothing to do with that sorry franchise. Forget what you saw about that childish billboard that was on the walls of Manhattan, which had caricatures of Durant and Kristaps Porzingis together. You even asked Kevin Durant. He'll just shrug that off. He's not concerned with that.
Of course he's going to shrug it off. Of course he's going to shrug it off because it's still the deal. It's still the deal. Their season has not done yet. Wait until next year. Wait until free agency starts up next year, and then you talk. Because everything is, it's on paper. Oh, this guy wants to go over there. That guy wants to go over there on paper. Oh, this guy's slated to go to the Los Angeles Lakers. So everything is just talk and paper. When I see it, then I'll believe it. But until that time frame, all it is just talk. And people can talk all they want. You know, because they're saying now, because Kevin Durant, because he wants to have his own team now, and that he's dating someone from New York, and blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
is it true? Well, what if it is? So what? Is that going to put him with the no? I don't know. Until I see it, I'm not going to believe anything. I'm just going to go by, this is what I read, and whatever happens, happens. That's all you can say. If it does happen, that would be great. If it doesn't, oh well. What do you think of the Cantor-Robertson?
Enes Kanter and Mitchell Robinson?
Yes.
It's a nice duo.
No, do you feel like Kanter should be benched and Robinson should be playing?
No. Enes Kanter needs to be a starter. Mitchell Robinson, he has to be brought along slowly. Unfortunately, we have about 20 seconds left, so we're going to have to bid you adieu.
Okay, well, thank you for letting me talking to you. Hopefully I'll see you next Monday.
All right.
And I'll see you on the show hopefully next Monday. Nothing happens.
For everyone here, I'm Jamie. Good night, everyone.
Hector.